In this video, I'll show you the basics of an Excel tool called conditional formatting. This tool is exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to format your spreadsheet based on conditions that you set. Here's a great example. I have here a file I downloaded from the United States Census Bureau. It shows population estimates for every incorporated place in the United States. So this file contains over 19,000 rows of data, each capturing a city or town in the United States, from Abbeville City in Alabama to Yodertown in Wyoming. And the columns capture population estimates from 2010 to 2019. So in Abbeville, Alabama, the population declined from almost 2,700 in 2010 to 2,560 in 2019. This is a very large file with over 19,000 rows of data. So doing things by hand is going to take a lot of time. We want to learn how to use Excel shortcuts if we want to be efficient managing data sets like these. So let's suppose I wanted to make this data easier for me to scan through. And in particular, I'd like to easily see some perspective about the size of cities or towns. Wouldn't it be nice to have populations larger than 50,000 residents highlighted in green and populations under 1,000 highlighted in orange? Now, I could go through and do this by hand, but it would take a long time. So what I'd like to do is tell Excel, hey Excel, scan through this file of population estimates, and anytime you see a number greater than 50,000, highlight the cell in green, and anytime you see a number less than 1,000, highlight the cell in orange. Let's see how we can do this. First, we need to select the area where we want to apply the formatting rules. So let's highlight all of the population cells. In another tutorial, I walked through some shortcuts for jumping around large data files like this one. In this case, I'm going to go to my starting point, the upper left cell with population estimates. I hold the Control key or Command key if you're using a Mac. Remember, this tells Excel I want to jump to the end of a list. And I also hold down the Shift key. Remember, this tells Excel I want to highlight everything in between when I jump. While holding down both keys, I press the down arrow to tell Excel which direction I want to jump, and this quickly jumps down to the very last value in the column and highlights all of the data in between. Then I'm going to do the same thing to move across and capture all of the values to the right. I hold the Shift and Control keys and press the right arrow. And now I've highlighted everything below and to the right of my starting point, almost 200,000 cells of data in about a second. Now that I've highlighted the region where I want to apply my formatting conditions, I can select the Conditional Formatting drop-down menu. On my version of Excel, this tool is in the Home ribbon. So from the Home ribbon, select Conditional Formatting, and here you can see I have several options. Let's play around with some of these options. In the Highlight Cells rules, you see that we can create rules to highlight cells based on whether those cells are greater than, less than, between, or equal to whatever condition we choose. Remember, we want to highlight any cell that's greater than 50,000 in green and any cell that's less than 1,000 in orange. So let's choose the greater than option first. Next, we see a text box guide for us to work through. It says, format cells that are greater than. Let's type 50,000 here. Then it says, with. Let's choose the option green fill with green text. And we're done. Let's select OK. Now, as we scan through our file, we can see that those areas like Auburn, Alabama, with populations greater than 50,000 are automatically highlighted in green. One of the beautiful things about this formatting tool is that it's dynamic. So as the cells in our region change, the formatting will change as well. So let's say we updated the population in Athens City, Alabama for 2019 to be 60,000 above the criteria we just set. As soon as we enter this data, the cell automatically changes to green. Now we want to create another rule on this same data, this time formatting the small cities and towns with orange cells. Let's again select our range of data where we want to apply the rule. Then select the conditional formatting and highlight cells rules. Then choose the less than option. Now we can work through the text box guide. Format cells that are less than, let's enter 1,000 here, and then we can tell Excel how to format these cells. We want to fill these cells in orange, and Excel doesn't give us that option. So we can choose a custom format, and then on the Fill tab, we can pick an orange color. I like this one. Click OK, and then click OK again to apply the formatting. Now, if we scan this data set, we can see that in Alabama, there are many more small cities than large cities. much more orange than green. But if we were to jump to, say, California, the opposite is true here, more California cities in green than orange. If we ever wanted to turn formatting off, we can select the conditional formatting dropdown and choose the Clear Rules option. Let's clear the rules from the entire sheet. And now all of our formatting is gone. Let's do one more example just to show you some of the options here. Instead of highlighting cells based on the absolute values we chose, green for above 50,000 and orange for below 1,000, let's say we wanted to format the data based on relative values. For instance, maybe we want to compare 2010 population estimates and highlight any above average value in green and any value in the top first percentile, so those very big cities, in red. Let's do that. So first, let's highlight our population values for 2010. Here, I go to my starting point, the top 2010 population estimate on our sheet, and I want to select all 19,500 rows below this as quickly as possible. So I hold down the Control key. Remember, Control is the signal to jump, and hold the Shift key. Remember, Shift is the signal to select every cell I jump over. And then I press the down key to jump down. Now I've selected all the cells in the list, all population estimates for 2010. This is the area where I want to apply this conditional formatting. I want the formatting to cover all of these selected cells. Now let's set up our rules. Select the conditional formatting dropdown, and we want to create rules based on the top or bottom values. So let's choose this option, top bottom rules. Then, since we want to highlight above average values in green, let's select above average. The text box guide pops up. Format cells that are above average for the selected range with what? Let's choose the green fill with dark green text and click OK to run. And we could see at the top of our list that cities like Alabaster, Albertville, and Alexander City all have above average populations based on the other values in this list. And now we can set up our second rule. We want to see very big cities, cities that are in the top first percentile, which means cities that are bigger than 99% of the other cities on the list. We want these cities highlighted in red. Let's follow the same steps as before. Select our data range, conditional formatting, another top-bottom rule, and this time we want to highlight based on a percentile, any of the values in the top 1% of all values. Excel has an option that says top 10%. That's sort of what we want, but we want top 1%, not 10%. When we click on this option though, we see that we have the option to modify the rule to whatever percentile we want. Cool. So for format cells that rank in the top, let's change this to top 1%, and then let's tell Excel to highlight with red fill and red text, and select OK to lock the rule in, and done. From the top of this list, we can see a few Alabama cities with above average populations, and Birmingham is the first big city in Alabama, with a population in the top 1% of all US cities. This is pretty cool because in order to run this formatting rule, behind the scenes, Excel is first calculating the average population and the percentile scores for each city, and then automatically comparing each value to those calculations. And again, this is all dynamic. So if the values change, the calculations change, and the formatting changes as well. So if these numbers were to change, Excel would each time recalculate a new average and new percentile score, and then change the filters accordingly. For instance, right now, Bessemer City in Alabama is highlighted in green, so its population is above average. But let's say the population of another city like Berrytown grew so large that it raised the entire average population of US cities to the point that the average was above 27,628. Now we can see that Berrytown has become red, meaning it's now in the top 1% in terms of population, and Bessemer is no longer green. It's automatically been adjusted out of this rule.